Hi, thank you for joining me for part 7, sugar, excitotoxins, and using fats for the body's energy fuel and fasting for healing. In part 6, I did talk a little about the blood flow and how it affects our health. Because if the blood is not flowing properly, then we have encompassed a health condition. And in this video podcast, I will be discussing briefly about the food digestion. So now, when we eat food, protein, fats, and carbohydrates, they are chemically broken down into the basic building blocks. Like your amino acids. Amino acids are your protein, your fatty acids, which are fats from the oil, and your monosaccharides, which are your sugars. Now, each one of these plays an important role. Like your protein is used for energy, and it also replaces the tissues. Fats is used for growth and energy. Fatty acids is essential for the brain development, and carbohydrates are the main energy source. Okay, so these foods are absorbed into the circulatory system, and the circulatory system has several important functions as it delivers your oxygen, your nutrients, and your hormones to the cells. It also carries away the waste and the carbon dioxide from the cells. So, well, anyway, these building blocks, which absorbs into the circulatory system through the intestinal wall and digests carbohydrates, breaks down into two forms: simple and complex carbohydrates. Now, simple carbohydrates consist of your starchy food, like your cakes, the candy, the cookies, the fruit juice, milk, and yoga, and sugar, stuff like that that makes you want to dance, right? So, but those things are more addictive than cocaine. That's been proven. And it also causes sleepless nights, and it causes ages too. Simple carbohydrates breaks down into glucose, and it enters into the bloodstream very quickly, causing your sugar to spike up, which it will lock that fats into your cells and prevent it from being used for energy. But fiber, fiber will slow that stuff down. Okay, and fibers are like your beans, your lentils, your oatmeals, your peas. Now, what that fiber will do is get locked into with the food. It will get locked within the food, and it will make you feel full. Well, that's the oatmeal part, but the fibers are like your oatmeal, your peas, your beans, your fruits, your blueberries, and stuff like that. Well, it get locked up in with your food, so it makes you feel better. And then we have the complex carbohydrates, which it takes longer for the food to break down, and it doesn't go directly into your bloodstream. Now, the complex carbs are non-starchy food, like your cabbages, your carrots, your lemons, your oatmeals, your grapefruit, and your celeries, and so many other. Well, anyway, you need to know that first. Understand that those of us who does not have a genetic adaptation of eating starchy food, the process of carbohydrates turns into starch, and about 2 hours later, it turns into sugar. But if you have a gene that produces more amylase, or this is an enzyme, I may be mispronouncing the name, uh, amylase, then you can easily digest the food in the mouth. So the saliva in the mouth will break down starch, and it'll convert that sugar very quickly. So let me just tell you that there are various genes that affects the way the protein express in the body, and protein and fats can take up to 4 to 5 hours in the stomach. So the stomach will then empty that content out, okay, into the small intestine. And the small intestine is where the starch and the sugar, which are your carbohydrates, They are stored in the glycogen, and the glycogen is where your liver is located. Well, anyway, in that small intestine, digestion will continue, and absorption will usually take up to 6 to 8 hours. Did you hear that? 6 to 8 hours. So once that digestion is finished, waste product leaves that ileum, and that's that small intestine. Then it goes to the final stage and it releases what's left into our large intestine. And that takes up to 1 to 4 days or about 40 hours for the stool, which is your bacteria, to get out of the colon. Did you hear that? So hopefully this message has been clearly identified as to why we are consuming too much food. Although we understand that the digestion process is a very long process, but yet we are not even allowing the food to rest properly. And see, and I'm bringing this to your attention because it is very important to understand that we have microflores, which are your good bacteria or your bacteria that lives in the gut. Okay, and they help us to digest the sugar, the starches, and the fiber that are found in the grains, the beans, and the vegetables, because we have a digestive enzyme that can't even break down the fiber. So we need those microflores to help us with the food digestion and to keep the bowel walls clean. But we also need to understand that the microflores can turn into pathogens, which are your bad bacteria. Because what influences the microbes in turn influences your brain. You see, the brain and the gut have a direct connection to one another, as they influences each other by sending signals to problem cells and to healthy cells. So the bacteria in the gut controls the brain and the nervous system, and it controls your appetite, your mood, and your emotions. Yes, I said it. It controls your emotions because the brain have a high, a medium, and a low circulation that changes the way we think, feel, and behave because of the chemical neurotransmitters, which are your serotonin and your dopamine. And there is another one. I'm just going to be talking about the serotonin and the dopamine. So the neurotransmitters are your chemical signals that goes throughout your brain that connects and spark your connection to your brain cells. Okay. So I'm going to stop right here. Know that I love and care for you, and I hope you have learned something. May God bless and keep you safe from all harm. Thank you for listening.